This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll try to create Docker Compose. Okay, couple of examples on that one. Docker Compose, and then we'll go for the discussion about the Docker Swarm, that you can say the container orchestration tool. Okay, but it's only overview will be given on this one, Docker Swarm, not much. And then we'll discuss about our main topic of the program, that is called as a Kubernetes. So second topic will start with the Kubernetes. Before starting the session, if at all you have any other questions or any suggestions, let me know, and then we can start. So we have seen a lot of information about Docker containers, right? We have started a lot of points we have covered in the Docker containers, right? From starting from the how to pull the image, how to push the images, how to create the containers from the images, right? Also, we have seen the Docker volume, Docker network. We have seen a lot of things on the bridge. Then we have seen something on the Docker file. We have spent a lot of time on the Docker file as well. In that Docker file, we have done a lot of example. Yesterday, we have seen how to create a front-end container, how to create a back-end container, and how to make them connectivity between them, right? And so I think we have spent a lot of time. Okay, Hicham, I'm not sure whether this is to be done or next week we can try out. Not an issue, Hicham. We can spend 15 minutes more time. That is a good work that you have done. So definitely we'll accommodate that. Okay, and so today what we are going to do, we are going to wrap up this containerization quite quickly, and then we are going to move ahead with your main topic called as a Kubernetes. Right. Okay, guys. Thank you. Anything else that sure, Hicham, that's fine. Yeah, Piyush, that is the right way. Any other thing that comes in your mind before starting the session, so that because we
Ramesh,
will not. Mhm.
a simple question. While creating the Docker image, there is a minus IT, right? Interactive mode and minus T, just T. What is the difference between those two?
See, basically, hyphen T is TTY. What terminal you would like to use? So, whenever you specify any hyphen T option, it indicates that it will use a available terminal to work on.
Oh,
Okay, and hyphen T stands for it is interactive mode. So that means you will be able to fire the commands on that terminal. That's why we use hyphen IT. And what is the hyphen D? D is nothing but detached mode. Detached mode is nothing but if you start the container, you don't want to start that container in the foreground. So it should not be there on the screen continuously. Whenever you start the container, it should run in the background mode, in the background side as a process. So
okay,
if you want to run the process in the background, you have to use as a detached mode.
okay.
So basically, this if I don't use the hyphen D option while creating the container like
Mm-hmm.
this one, okay, and from this image, it will remain in the foreground. It will just be there. You see here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Now it is in the foreground. I am not able to interact with this container. So if at all I want to interact, I need to open the new terminal and log in into it. So this is what is interactive. But when I use this command, same command, but with the help of hyphen D option, now I will get a chance to work on the terminal because this process will get run inside the it will be running in the background. Can you see this? So now I have a
Yes.
terminal to work on. So this is actually difference between hyphen D and without hyphen D. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, guys.
Ramesh, thanks for this. Actually, I'm Gokul here. So
Mm-hmm.
is there any syntax for that? Like because I just understand that Docker run -it, then container name, then image name. Then what about the bin bash? Is like any syntax to follow the bin bash, or we need to enter the bin bash, or just leave that one as it is?
No, by default it will run in the bash one if this container supports bash shell. So bash shell is used whenever you want to access that container. Otherwise, we don't require here, right? We can run the commands from this place also. Okay, but if you want to access the container, it is always better to use some shell to access, such as bash or such SSL.
Oh, okay. So the bin is not mandatory. Bin and
No, bean is not. Bash is something which is the if you see echo dollar shell. So I am working on the bash shell. So I can type bash or I can type bean bash. So bash is actually acting as a command. So command can be executed from any places. You don't have to give the full path always.
okay, understood. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, guys. So let me start with our main. Yes, I do delete because I have that habit of deleting everything and create it from the fresh Ganendra, if I'm not wrong, right? Okay. Let's start now. So guys, what we want to do now today is the Docker Compose. So what is the need of the Docker Compose? So writing such commands every time, big commands and everything, right? Uh, this form is called as the kind of imperative form. Okay, so when you are creating an object such as Docker, a container, or maybe a pod, or maybe deployment later on we are going to create, all these methods are called as imperative method. But what is the problem with the imperative method? It becomes a difficult for the modification, deletion, update, edit of that object. So it is better always to create some sort of uh, file, declarative format. So if you use a declarative format, then always you will have some chance to modify and rework on that content, or maybe pod or maybe deployment like that. So I would like to use a declarative format here. And normally in the declarative format, we use YAML format, right? YAML stands for yet another markup language. That is YAML syntax. So we are going to use this YAML syntax most of the time while writing our pods and deployments. Okay, so how do we write that? So there is YAML is little bit you can say space sensitive, right? It is a case sensitive, it is a space sensitive. Okay, and we can define the arrays and key and values inside this YAML file. So how do we do that? So let me create one file called as touch. So I will create here a file called as a Docker compose, right? So I want to create a Docker compose actually. So before starting this particular thing, that we need to have the Docker compose installed in your machine. If you don't have the Docker compose, then how we can use that, right? So Docker compose, if you want to use, you can just use command apt install docker dash compose -y. If you fire this command, then whatever it will download all the files from the internet repositories related to Docker Compose. Right, so I'm using this Docker Compose version. You can see by using this command Docker version, and look at this. This is called as a 1.17.1 Docker version. We are Docker Compose version we are using, right? And so this is the way we have to install, guys. And Docker Compose is nothing but writing a YAML file to create the container or containers. Okay. So let us try with this one. So we can use a Docker compose command as a file name .yaml. This is the standard file which will be understood by the Docker compose. You can also provide the different nomenclatures, names of the file, but .yaml is either you can use YML or you can use YAML. Both of them will work. Okay. So now let me write something here. So the version which we are going to use here is something called as 3 point, I think. Let me take it 3 only. Then we have to declare this as a services, and inside the services we have to declare what exactly you want to create. So let's say that I want to create my web-based container. So I'm giving the name to this as a web container, and which image you would like to use. I can use the command called as image colon. Let's say I want to use HTTP. So this is a very simple form of the Docker compose file, guys. Whatever you want to do, you can specify here. Right. So let me save this. Just 1 second, guys. Okay. Now, so the name of the file was Docker. So how to run them? Docker compose, right? And then I can use up command and -t. So it will run in the detached mode. So automatically it will pick up the file called as docker.compose, and it will create the container. So now see here, docker compose ps command. This command will help you to find out that which container has been created. So it shows that it has created a container called as docker underscore web1. This is the command which is running inside that, and right now it is on, state is up, and it is running on the port number 80. You can also see the same information by using the docker ps command. Now look at this. This is the container which I started earlier, guys, web2, but this is the container which I have started with the help of docker compose, right? And now here you can see docker underscore web underscore 1. This is the container which I started now. I can use the command docker inspect and give the container name 5grep -i IP address, and you should be able to see the IP address here. It is showing something called as 17.18 curl. You can use this one and see that it is working fine. You might have seen one difference, guys, here, that it has got the IP address of 17.18.0.8. That means if you see the IP addresses, it has created one more bridge. Look at this. So earlier bridge is docker 0. Now this docker compose has created one additional bridge, which is 17.18.0.1. So whenever you create a container by using the docker compose, the containers will get this IP address from this range. Okay, guys, so this is a very simple docker compose file which I have used. Right now, see, if I want to if I want to give the name to this container, can I give the name to this one? Let me try out, guys. Let's say this is my name called as my web1, right? And okay, let me save this and try to bring up this docker compose file again by using the command called as docker compose up -d. So it shows that, see, we cannot specify the name variable here, name key value, so it doesn't take that way, guys, right? So what you need to do, so how the names are taken up? Names are taken up as a service name here. See here, it is a web. So this becomes my name of the container, right? And let's say that if I give another name to it, let's say that I want to create one more service called as my web one. So this becomes my another container, and here I can give, it should be aligned properly because this is a different service altogether. Okay, and now which image you would like to use for this one? Let's say that I want to use image called as Nginx. So this is my another container. Now the name, what will be the name of this container? This will have a web and this will have a my web one. So let me create web 2 here because already web is used. Let me save this and try to run this one. Now you can see here it shows that already web 1 has been running. That's fine. So if you want to remove, you can remove. Now see, it has created my web 1 and web 2. Okay, now you see here docker compose ps command. It will help you to understand these two containers has been running. Since I am using the same docker compose file, it has deleted or removed. You can see that it might have become my orphan container now. Can you see? I have, this is my docker web 2 container. This is my my web 1 container. This is my docker's web 1 already container, and this is my another container which I have created by using a declarative way. Okay guys, so what should we do now to solve this problem? So can you guys understood that if at all I want to create the multiple containers from using some declarative format, I can just use docker compose file, and if you see here, it is creating the multiple containers for me. Okay, now can I use something called as a db containers? I want to create a database container here. Yes, I can use here database. And what image you would like to use? I would like to use image called as MySQL. But now you need to specify some other parameters to this, right? Such as environment. Okay, so what parameters you would like to specify as an environment parameter? So you can use here MySQL underscore
Ramesh, there is a spelling mistake in India.
Right. So it is, what is the spelling? ENVIO. Is it correct? ENVOI. No.
ENVIRONMENT. Yeah.
Sometimes spelling doesn't come in the mind. Okay, so database. So my SQL database, I would like to use this as, and see here, you might be observing one thing, that I'm giving this equal spaces here, 2 spaces. After that, I am just writing on the second space here, or I can write here on the third space also. So always give the equal spaces. So ideally it should be on the this way. It should be, I'm giving equal spaces so that there should not be any confusion. And here also, if I want to use this as a key value for, so this is nothing but your key, and this is a value, and inside this environment, this will become your first value inside this one, right? So I can give, let's say I want to give this as my db1 database name.
Ramesh, do we have to fix MySQL data as in database?
Thank you very much. Then I think something is going bad today. MySQL, not every day is Sunday, right? MySQL underscore root underscore password. Okay, colon. I can give the password as, let's say, 123. I hope it will pick up. Okay. Now, so now what I'm doing, I'm creating one image called as database image, but now I don't want this, right? Because this is already used. I can delete this, but let's see what happens if I keep it like that. It is not going to make any difference. Let's try out this Docker compose up -d. Okay, so it is downloading the MySQL image and now it is working. So it is creating a Docker db1. Okay, I hope that this is running. Docker ps. Yes, it has started working, guys. This is my Docker db1. Let me try out one more time. Yes, my db1 is started running, right? And I can access this one also in case I want to access it. So we can create multiple containers by using one Docker file. I hope that this is clear to every one of you. Now, can I use a different name to this file? Can we use that one? Let's say if I want to, rather than using a Docker compose, because every time I'm just using a Docker compose, can we use different file naming culture here? So let me try out file called as touch my file one dot YAML. Okay, and vi my file one dot YAML, and let me use the version here. See, version is something which you need to understand, guys, properly. So each Docker version has a different versions are available. Let me show you that in the command in the Docker this one standard documentation or the Docker file, that what are the different versions are available. Let me show you that. Okay, Docker compose versions. Right, and it should show you the lot of versions, guys, here. Okay, you can follow these versions in case you want to, and they have given the compose file format, and this is the Docker engine release. So if you are using any Docker release between the, let's say that if you are using 18.0.2 Docker engine, then the version you can use 3.6 here, right? And so these are the versions. According to Docker engine version, you can specifically provide the, okay, so I am using this 3.0. That is anything above the 1.13.0 plus it will work. I can use the current version also because my current Docker version is something is, what is the current Docker version which I have installed? Docker dash dash hyphen version, and it is 19.03. So if I use 19.03 plus 3.8 will also take, or 3.7 will also do, right? So according to the Docker engine version, you can use the version inside the Docker compose file. So let me use 3.7, guys, whether it works fine. So I'm going to use the now version as 3.7. Okay, then I have to use services, and here I will use okay image. So what is the image you want to use? Let's say you want to use HTTPD, but specifically if you want to specify any ports or like that, you can specify here, guys. If you want to specify the ports, let me show you how we can specify the ports, guys. So you can specify the ports like this one. This is my database image Redis I can use, and this is my ports. So this is the way I can expose it. So let me use this. So what is happening here, guys? This will be my host port 9090, and this will be my container port /TCP. So similarly, if you want to specify any volume, you can specify here, right? If you want to specify any networking element, you can specify. So because these are the properties of services: image, ports, network, environment, right? Volume. These are the properties of the specified version. So now let me just save this. and try to run this one whether this works fine. Docker compose. Can I use -f option, guys, here? My file one dot, right, and up and -t. Image must be a mapping, not a string, right? So what is the mistake I have done, guys, here? Oh, so I have not given the name of the service. So what is the name of the service? Let's say I'm just specifying here website as my name of the service. So unless and until you don't specify properly the name of the service, it will give you the error. So it becomes, because image is the mapping of the service and not the, okay, so I need to specify like this one. Okay, and this is something. Okay, guys. And now let me try out. So it is showing that you might be seeing this error because you are using the wrong compose file version. Either specify a version 2.2 or 3.3 and place your, oh, let me check out why this version is not coming up. So let me use 3 version again, guys. Let me go back to the
I
3
think you
version.
need to give some space before ports also, right? I mean, before 9090 and 80 TCP, you need to give some space, right?
No, that's fine. That is list.
I think that becomes a array. Let us try out. I
Array.
think it should work. Yeah, now it has started coming up. Yes, cool. So now we can see here Docker compose ps, and you should be able to see that the current website. Oh, but it has not picked up. It should have picked up the service called as a website. It is showing dockers underscore website underscore one done, but it is not listing here. Let me see the my containers docker ps. Yeah, it has created, but it's not showing there. It is created. It is showing here. So I can access it from the outside also. 9090 port has been exposed from the outside. So if you go outside and try to access it, I will be able to do that. Let me find out the IP address of my, yes, -f is for file. This is my IP address. Go here and give the colon 9090. I
So
think
why
it should
Docker
work.
Compose didn't pick up?
Sorry.
The Compose didn't pick up our containers website.
Yeah, that is interesting. So let me use something. It should have used. It should have shown that one. Docker compose. No, it is not showing me that. One understanding is there. Let me one understanding comes in my mind that if you are using a Docker compose file for the creating the services, so then the Docker compose command is picking up that. If I am using a different file option, then it is not picking up here. That is one observation I see here. Why this command has not picked up that list of the containers. So now since I have since I can use anything with my file one.yaml, right, guys? So I can, if I want to create, I can use multiple files also. My YAML file, my file 2.yaml as well. And what will happen? The same thing, guys. Let's see quickly only one option, version, whether it is taking multiple files or not, just for your comfort. This is version 3.0 and services. Look at this, guys, and I can use here, let's say that front end. This is my name of the service, and let me just give the one thing, if image called as, let's say, nginx, and let me see whether it picks up properly. Okay, save it, and now docker dash compose. I need to give the file name. my file2.yaml, and I'm using up command because so that it will bring up these particular containers, and I'm using -d option so that it will run in the detached mode. So now it is coming up. So now this container has created, and if I use the docker compose command again, look at this. I think this will not pick up here. This is what my observation. Yeah, it is not picking up this command. But if I use docker ps-a, this docker frontend has started. Okay,
Ramesh,
so I have.
Ramesh, I guess whatever the command you use, docker compose -f file name and up, instead of up, use ps. It should show your container.
This one?
No, just add -f that file name, whatever the command you use for the docker compose up. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
give the
That
file
will
name
work.
and
Mhm.
instead of up, mention the ps.
Okay. Okay, so whatever the file name I have given, it is if whatever the container has been created by using this file, it is displaying here. Okay, all right, good. If you use here for the file one also, then it will show you the whatever the containers are created. Yeah, it is YAML. I think I have changed the name of it, right? Yes, it is. It is coming up. So, what is the Docker Compose? Docker Compose is used to create multiple containers in one go, right? And you can define the statements inside it. So different definitions you can of the different properties of it you can define. So how to find out the information about the service properties and everything, because it is quite difficult to remember everything, right? So how do we do that? What are the services are there and what are the properties are there? Compose specifications you can see, guys. Let me try to show you if I can. Guys, you see here, you can give the volume like this. This is the way we have again volume like this one. So this is a slash code. Okay, and but I just want to show you something different, right? This is your networks. This is the way we can give the networks, guys. I don't want to show you this. This is available everywhere. I want to show you something. See, basically what is happening whenever I try this my file 2.yaml, look at this. I have written here version, then services, and then front end, and this image. So is there any way that we can find out what are the properties which are coming with the containers, right? Okay, we'll see that, guys, again. I just want to find out this information, but this information is coming up directly from the Docker Compose and not it is defined here anywhere. Yeah, no, it is not showing any. It is very nicely given in the Kubernetes, but I don't see here actually.
Isn't it under compose specification, Ramesh? The left-hand side.
This one? Let us see. No, it is showing this one only, compose file format. It is not coming.
Syntax, okay.
All right, guys, no problem. I will just search that one. In case I get it, I will give it to you guys because that is very important. No, it is also user guide. Do we have anything specific here for the user guide? No, that is also not there. No, guys. Okay, no problem. Okay, so any specific question on the Docker Compose? Let me see. Lot of questions are there. Okay, let me check out. So What is the difference between YAML and, yeah, it is same actually. You can use the same both way. Thank you, Ranjit, for answering that. Did you name the containers as a Docker? No, I have just used as a web1. It takes that name as a Docker underscore web1. It just connects that. Are we going to have YAML class, or there is something you can read to know? Oh, YAML specific class is not there, but I'll suggest you to try to read something on the Ansible programming. In that one, it will be it is actually Ansible is a configuration management tool. So Ansible is used very extensively YAML files. So if you try learning that one, your hands-on will be there. Okay. Yes, HM, that is correct. Version 3 is the Docker Compose version. Is Dockerfile and Dockerfile part of CKA? Dockerfile will be there always, guys. Dockerfile, if you want to create an image, you need a Dockerfile. But specifically, I don't think so. They ask to create any image out of it. Okay, how I can? Yeah, Ramesh, we can just use a hash command to comment. It will work. Okay. Yes. So the difference between Dockerfile and Docker Compose is the creation of multiple images. No, Dockerfile is used to create images, while Docker Compose is used to create the containers from the images. Only Docker Compose is used to, you can write in the this one declarative way, so that you can modify as per your requirements anytime whenever you want. So if you change the image version, you can just change in the Docker Compose file that image version has been changed. It will recreate the container. It will kill the earlier container. It will recreate the container. So that is the use of it. Can you show IP address for this DB container? Okay, I will just show you, Sudhakara. Yeah, thank you, Ranjit, for answering it. Yeah, thank you, Hichan. Okay, is there any limitations of using the images like DB app images or any framework images for single Docker Compose? As such, you see, what is Abhiram? What is the exactly question you say? Capacity.
Like, in a Docker Compose, you are using, I know, DB and then some of the other HTTPD. So I can use any frameworks. I can use 10, 15. I don't know. Like, the only thing was my question was on capacity here. I mean, maybe that I don't know how really that capacity would work here, but can I use any, 10, 15, 50 images, or referring those? So that's, or is there any limitation to use number of?
As per my knowledge, when I was working on the OpenShift, the maximum number of containers, or you can say pods in that matter, which you can start, they are 255. So you can say that you can launch 255 containers or 255 pods on one worker node or one host. That is what I have experienced. Okay, but in the recent versions, if anything has changed, then we have to change. See.
So yeah? 255 can be anything, right? I mean, I can have 255 DB.
Yes, it can be anything.
Does it matter of is it heavy loaded, or it's it's just a Java class, or it could be a heavy loaded? Doesn't matter, right? 255 is a 255 number, right? Is that
number,
how?
That is number of the containers that you can start, but you have to think about your host capacity also, whether it will take it or not. Okay, so let's say if one container and anything, right? It just assign the 2 megabytes of the memory and 0 CPU millicores. But once you start using it, it might start using it. It may use more CPU and RAM, right? Container. Then we have to think about the usage, and accordingly we have to calculate how much CPU and RAM is available on the Docker host, and accordingly we have to set up the number of containers on the Docker host. So you need to do the capacity plan.
Pod, right? I mean, in terms of Kubernetes, it's a pod, but in terms of Docker, it's a container. Is that how I would say? So it will be like 255 pods, you said, right? That's how I should take it.
Right. You can take that way. Yeah, because after all, pod is nothing but a container only, right? It has. Okay, we'll discuss about that one.
No, I got the context, but okay, thank you.
Yeah. where do we give the IP range so that each container picks up one number from the range? Kavita, I think we have created one command. We have used the Docker networking for this one. We have almost spent almost 2 hours on that one to discuss about the networking. So if you want to specify a different range, Kavita, then you have to create your own bridge by using a Docker
Okay.
network.
Okay,
Yeah,
I will
and
go through it. I missed it actually. Fine.
oh, I see. You can definitely but see that
Yeah.
lecture. Okay. Does Docker Compose version depends on the Kubernetes? No. Docker version, Compose version doesn't depend. It depends on the Docker engine. Okay. We can specify the IP address, Sudhakara, in the Docker file, but provided it should be not from the default default bridge, right? So if you are using a default bridge, then we cannot assign the IP address to the container. Okay, it will take automatically. But if you are using the custom bridge, then you can use the IP. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it should be, I mean, it should be extension should be YAML, not TF. That's correct. The Docker file has a .tf extension.
Is it because that Docker Compose has a more towards Kubernetes? That's why it's YAML, Ramesh, or how that changes? Because because YAML had its own disadvantage over.
As per my knowledge, the Docker engine, which has been developed by the engineers, they have used either JSON format or YAML format to create that objects. I don't see any normal text file is used to create that one. We have to use either YAML or JSON format to create the containers. Instead of YAML file, you can use the JSON also. It will work.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think I will be able to show you in the Kubernetes if I can. Let me just try out if I can show you here, guys. I'm not sure. This is first time I'm trying command. If it works fine, then it's good. Docker run -it -d -name web 22 from nginx image -dry run -o JSON format. No, it is not picking up that. It works very nicely in the Kubernetes. It is not picking it here. No, it is not picking up here. I will show you this.
The YAML, no, YAML or that.
No, it is not picking up. It is not. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I have made a mistake. No, but still, it is not. It is not helping us. Okay.
Okay.
So actually, I was thinking to create a kind of YAML file while running the command itself, but it is not helping me here. But it helps me in the Kubernetes. So I will show you in the Kubernetes how we can create a YAML file out of the if you are using this kind of imperative commands. From imperative commands, you can create a YAML files. Okay, guys. Okay, -f option is for the file. Yeah, anything else is there? I think I have covered. Compose and Doctor matrix. What is that actually you are saying?
In the documentation, there was a Compose and matrix version was there, right? Can you go?
That was one engine. Engine was there, and this one, right?
Yeah. Maybe I missed that, so I want to understand that part of what is that version thing.
No, this is a Compose file format, and this is your Docker engine release. This is matrix. So whatever the engine you have installed even on your host, okay, accordingly you can choose the file format, Compose format. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Yeah, let me finish these questions quickly. Even using multi-stage build, we can create a multiple containers in one go, right? Yes, No. Basically, in multi-stage, we can create a multiple images. Okay, Pujita, it doesn't create a container. It creates a multiple
Okay,
images.
I got it, Ramesh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anirban is asking, can you you please discuss about Docker Compose properties links? Okay, I will definitely discuss about this. What is a links, guys? Any idea about what is a links? Let me just explain quickly what is a link actually. Uh, that is a very simplest for command. Let me just take it that way. 1 second. Okay. Consider the okay. Consider this. Consider. Hello. This is your container one, and it has certain environmental parameters, or it has certain files are there that which you want to copy, such as contents of etc host file. This is there, right? Or some other environmental parameters are there in the container one. This is a container one running, and you are creating a new container here. And now what you want to do, you want to link the parameters which are environmental parameters which are running in this particular container one. If you want to map that parameters to the container two, along with, if you specify environment, it will copy all the parameters of the container one to the container two. If you want to copy the etc host parameters from the container one to container two, it will be done. So linking is nothing but mapping the environmental parameters, or mapping certain parameters of the container, one container to the another container using link command. So I don't have to copy every time all these environmental parameters, or I can create one container with env, all the environmental arguments and everything, and will make as a standard container, and we'll just link that container while creating a new container, so that all the environmental parameters will get copied to that new container. That is the use of link.
But if they are bridged, we don't have to, right? I mean, linking is other way, right, Ramesh? So those are bridged like.
No. This is not related to networking concept. This is related to, if you want have some parameters inside one container, you want to copy that into the new container, we can use this link concept.
And it's only limited to environment parameter, or is it also I can put the images of those, or does it?
Yes. Almost all the parameters we can try to map it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, means just like base image and the child image, I think so, kind of thing.
Don't think so. That's not. I think that's not the way.
No, not that way. Let me just take example if I can. I don't have the command right now in front of me how to link it, but let me show you. This is let's say I have Docker ps command, and I have one container running. This is my web 2. Okay, so now let me go inside the container web 2, Docker execute. If you have it hyphen web 2, and I'm using a bash here, right? So I'm going inside the container, and there is a file. There are environmental parameters env, right? And if I want to export some parameter called as environmental parameter, or env parameter called as, or let me set up the path like this one. Set path is equal to slash home slash let's say that path one directory. Let's say like this one. I need to create a path one directory. So let me create a directory called as slash home slash path one. Okay, so this is a directory I have created. Now I have set this path, right? Set is equal to path. Now what I will do, I will export it. Export $path. So
Ramesh, while exporting, don't give the dollar actually.
Okay, right. Export path. Now, if I see the environmental parameter, I think it should add. It is not added, but that I have made some mistake here. So set
I
path
think
is equal to
with the
home path.
export path, you have to define the whole path along with the new directory which you have created.
One second. Let me just pick up the command from this cat/root dot bash rc. It is not here also. There was syntax to set up the path. I just forgot it, guys. I just forgot it. If you know, if you have that syntax right away ready, let me know.
Yes, Ramesh, you can type it as the export path equal to
Export path is equal
path
to.
equal to. You want to provide the dollar path all uppercase colon
Right.
then your new path. No, dollar path. You want to type in the whole thing because you want to retain whatever the old values. Sorry, Ramesh, that is
Right.
not right. No, sorry. You just type in path again one more time. Yes, now colon, then you type in the new. Yes.
Yes. What was the name I gave, guys? Path 1, right? If I'm not wrong. I forgot it again. Okay. I think this will work, right? And if you just use environmental parameter, yeah. Now this has been added here. Okay. So like that, I can add multiple environmental parameter of this container. And now what I want to do, whenever we create a new container, that container should get this path over there as well. So we can use, this is one example I'm giving you guys. So let's say that another one is that right now I am having a cat etc host. There is certain information is there inside that. And what I can do, echo, let me put here as 110.0.0.1 and let me use this as server 1. Okay, and I'm appending this value into etc host file. Okay, and now you see here it will have the etc hosts, right guys? So this is my 10.0.0.1. So now whenever I create any new container, this etc host file content should get added into the new container as well. So if you want to do that one, we can use link command. So how do we do that, guys? Docker run -it -name. Let's say that I'm creating a new container called as what was the name of this container, guys? I have used web2, right? Yeah. So docker run -it -name. I'm creating a new container called as web3. Then I can use here link. Then you use a web2 colon web2 and let's say use the image called as httpd. This is created from the engine, so I'm letting me use same thing. I have not used the -d option, so that's why it is running in the foreground. Let me use -d. This is web4 and same thing. Now if I go inside the container called as web4, I think it should work. Okay, let me go inside the container called as a web5, docker execute -it web5 and inside that bash. Oh, it is not executed. Let me go to the web4 bash and try to use environmental parameter, and it should have copied it here. It is not copied, but something is missed from my side.
Why
so
web2 colon web2? It should be web2 colon the name of the new container.
No, we cannot specify the 2 times, right? One second. Let's say I'm creating a web2 here, web6 here. This is what you are saying, right? And if I go inside the Docker execute -it web 6 bash, something is missing. I'm sure about that. env, something is missing. I am making some mistake here for link while linking. Okay, guys, I will come back on this one. Is that okay if I come back on this? Because there is something is missing here, and this is not copying it.
Sure,
It
Ramesh,
should
yeah.
copy. Yeah. But this is the way we have to link the container. This is the way we have to link the container. Only
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
missing is yeah.
Yeah, I understood the motto. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will show you that after some time. I'll show that once I click that one. I'll show that because yeah.
Sure, sure.
So when you exported the path, right, you have created a new directory and then you have exported the path. So what does that mean? That if you want to add a new volume, then you can do in that way.
No, this is nothing but when you are adding a path, specifically about you are asking about the path. Path is nothing but it is a standard path which you can use in the that particular server. Whatever the script you keep in that particular path will become a command.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if somebody asks you to make a command from the script, you have to save it. You have to give the execute permission and keep at the standard path. It will become a command.
So that you don't have to go physically to that location to execute that command. You can run it from anywhere, right?
Right. That is the use of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, guys. So that's it for I think I was explaining somebody's answer, right, about the linking. Where was I? Now this is managing. This is quite.
Yeah, Ramesh, I had one question.
Mm-hmm.
I pasted it in the chat. Let me say, like when you run the same compose file couple of times, like what we observed is like I think it's creating the same containers again and again, isn't it?
No. It is not creating same containers again. If at all it will not create the same containers again. No.
No duplicate containers.
No. It will not.
Okay.
It will.
But Ramesh, I think it will create if there's any change done in any of the container file or config, right? If there's no
If there is a change, then it will create. If there is no change, then it will not create.
Does it cache all this information, Ramesh? How does it check?
Okay, you want to show me one exercise on that? How does this happen?
No. I was wondering how does it use any sort of cache? Docker Compose.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, it use the cache.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Hicham, this is version 2. Is it working fine about the Rabbit and MongoDB? You have given that?
No, it is an example how to use several. If, for example, in your Docker Compose you have 10 or more than 10 containers to run, it's to become so hard to manage this file. And for example, if you want, if you have a problem, you have to run all the file or the Docker Compose. This is a way to separate this Docker file. For example, in my case, I have a Rabbit and MongoDB DB, and this Rabbit in MongoDB, they have another YAML file to manage the Rabbit. If you see down in the third message I sent, this is a separate YAML for the Rabbit, and they have a separate YAML for the MongoDB, and each part they have a separate. In case of you have a problem in Rabbit or MongoDB or other container, you have to check this YAML file instead of running all the Docker Compose for this. This is how to write this Docker Compose file. You extend from this is an example how to we do that in our project. That's why I want to share with colleague here to have this possibility. This is in version 2. I don't know in version 3 if it's still working. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it is there.
So,
It is there. You can use a build dot also. You can use a build dot as well. So you can write a build space dot. So it will pick up all the files as well.
Okay.
So where actually we
So
place those child file,
you keep it in the same directory, in the same directory where you have your compose file. You put those rabbit YAML and MongoDB YAML. You put it in the same place where you have the Docker Compose. I am sure that if you put it in other directory, you have to do it in the, you see here in extend file, and I think you need to give the path for this. But in our case, we put this YAML file in the same directories where we have the Docker Compose file.
So is it like we have to test each and every child file, like the MongoDB
for example, for example, if sometimes when you run Docker Compose, we have a problem in I don't know if MongoDB or for Rabbit. What I do in my side that I go to the Rabbit YAML file and check what I changed, what I did, and I can run just Rabbit YAML with the Docker Compose -f Rabbit YAML up, and you can see you can run file by file if you want. Each YAML file you can run it with Docker Compose without running all the Docker Compose, the big all Docker Compose.
Correct. So that is absolutely correct. What HM you said, that you can use individual files, or if you want to run all the files in one go, you can use this format. So thanks for sharing that. Good, very good. He has given some additional.
So in this case, the services will be a array, or the image has to be part of an array. Like here we are including multiple child file, right? So the image has to be, or the services has to be an array.
It's still the same. The image, if you see the last message, rabbit mq.tree management, this is the image. This is the image. I pull it from the Docker Hub, and the name of the container will be the rabbit container name rabbit with the port 1567 672.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. So means like every file, like for example, you have exported, included rabbit. So the rabbit is there. MongoDB, you have included MongoDB. So MongoDB and then extends. So like this, we can have a number of child file in it. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for sharing it.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you very much for sharing that. This is the way it should be like, because if you share the knowledge with each other, the knowledge grows. Don't keep it with you guys. Always keep sharing. Okay, in the right spirit. Okay, thank you very much for Hicham for sharing this one. I'm very happy.
Okay. Ramesh, I have a quick question. I copied into the chat. So
I'm sorry if I missed anything. Yeah, please.
It's not a problem. So if we created a two container, which I copy paste. So which I created a two container with two different YAML files with two separate pages. So in this case, the two container can talk to each other.
If it is on the different bridge, right? No, then they will not talk to each other. Then no, directly they will not be able to do that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I think we have discussed a lot about the Docker Compose now. There is a time to move ahead now.
Sorry, Ramesh, could you go ahead? Just two quick questions, please.
Yeah, please.
First question is there a way we can share the environment variables, among containers? I think link is the solution you said, right? Am I right?
Right. Yes. Link is the solution for that.
Perfect. Thank you. The other one, quick one is, let's say I want to define my infrastructure in such a way that I want to have two bridges and couple of containers associated to bridge A, couple to bridge B. Can I do all this using Docker Compose?
Yeah, you can do that one. You can specify the network option, and in that one you can create multiple bridges also. Not an issue. You can do that.
And you can associate all the containers for bridge A or bridge B and that sort of thing.
Yeah, correct. You can
All
define that. See,
thank
always
you.
keep this in mind. If you are going to use the custom bridge, please note
Yeah.
down that you can use the IP addresses to the container. But if you are using the default bridge, you cannot
Yeah.
use the IP address customized IP address. Please note down that only one difference. Yes.
Cool. All right. Thank
So
you.
Ramesh, there's one more thing. If you want to share some environment variable, we can use a NFS mount everything, right? Where we can store, and depending on that, we can use in our container. So
That option is always there. That
yeah.
option is always
So just like a link is another alternative for that, correct?
right. You can use that
Okay.
because
Yeah. Thank you.
whatever the files you keep in the base volume file, and if you map that to the container volume or directory, whatever the files are there, it will pick up. So if you are going to copy the environmental file, that's fine. It will pick up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Ramesh, can you repeat that? You were talking about the IP address, default container, and that one. I didn't catch that.
No, what I was saying that if you have a, default bridge, so default bridge is always Docker 0, right? When you install it. So if you are having a Docker 0 as a default bridge, then we cannot assign the IP address from that range to the container in custom way. I cannot choose the IP address for this container. But if I have a custom bridge network, like if I create a network 1 or network 2, right, that kind of bridge, then I can choose the IP address which I want to choose, and I can assign that to the container. That is the difference.
Okay, the custom one is what I create, and the Docker 0 is the one default you're talking, right?
Yes, correct. Absolutely correct.
I think you can change just the subnet. It's not just the range of IP address, not the IP address of the container.
In custom, you can give that. If it is a custom, you can give that.
In custom, you can fix. You can say that this container will have this IP address.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, guys. I know that everybody is waiting for another topic. Thank you very much. But I hope that I tried to explain you the containers, guys, the way you want it, right? I hope that everybody has got the clarity about it. So, can you say that yourself that you are confident about the containers now? That you know something now?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Ramesh?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Guys.
Ramesh, I have one question about this YAML. So Ansible is YAML is used for Ansible coding extension, but here we are using Docker Compose also. What's the relation between this Ansible and Docker Compose? For Ansible to write a program in Ansible, we need to install Ansible package. What about here? Do
Here you
we
don't.
need to install it or not required here?
No.
If we
The
install
reason is
Docker
that
Compose itself.
Docker Compose itself take care of that YAML configuration library files. It is there inside that one. So automatically, when you write any YAML file or any Docker Compose file as a YAML file, it picks up that and it interprets that way. So it has an interpreter interest inside that when you deploy the Docker Compose. And if you are using the Ansible, Ansible will also have an interpreter which will interpret the YAML format, and it will convert in the whatever the way the compiler want to accept it. Okay, so it is there. What I was saying that you try to use that Ansible more frequently in case you are in the IT in IT department, or you are in infrastructure, you are inclined towards the infrastructure. It is always better to use the Ansible so that you can configure the hundreds and thousands of containers in one go. So if somebody says that I want the IP addresses of the 100 containers, how you can find out? If somebody says that if you want to install the Apache on 100 containers in one go, how will do that? If somebody says that, no, look, I want to map 100 volumes to the 100 containers, how do we do that? Right? So for that purpose, Ansible is powerful. Okay. All right, guys. So now,
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Now moving ahead, we have these 15 minutes of time before the break, and I would like to take you to towards the Docker Swarm. So we have seen one thing, guys. There are a lot of containers are there, right? We have discussed about a lot of containers here. One thing is that how to manage them. If something goes wrong with one container, let's say that this is my Docker host. This is my Docker host, and you have hundreds of containers running on this one. This is my container 1, this is my container 2, like this one. So this way I have multiple containers, guys. And each container contains the multiple applications, different applications are there. So this is my C1 container, this is my container C2. This has a web application inside it. This has a DB inside it. And due to some reason, this container is now, it has stopped. It has killed. It has now not working. It has exited. Something has gone wrong with this one. So when the container is exited, or it is in the stop condition, or it is pause condition, or some other condition, then your application will be down, right? But in real scenario, I'm damn sure that nobody would like to have such kind of story, right? You will say that, then why your customers will say that, can you do something like that, that you will have another worker, another host, Docker host, right? And have a replica of this, container 1 on the another host C2. This is, I'm saying, C1 web. So I want two containers, same to same containers running, and they should be interfaced with some interface of the networking, so that whenever my customer comes here, so traffic will be sent to this place, traffic will be sent to this place. Right now, we don't have, if I push the container, if I start the container on this worker node 1 or this Docker host, and then I don't have another Docker host to take care of it, right? And if I do that one, then I don't have a service mechanism or routing mechanism available to integrate with to distribute the load on the multiple containers. So right now we are not able to do the high availability concept. We are not able to maintain the high availability. We don't know if what happens if my container goes down. I don't have any backup plan. I don't have any redundancy here. Okay, and to manage the containers, right? So, and what if my load if my load increases here, if it continuously increasing, then what to do? My container 1 is not enough. I want multiple containers. How we can create a multiple containers from one container or from one image, and how they will automatically come behind the load balancer. So reusability of the containers, or maybe availability of the containers, or redundancy of the containers, networking, right? Or you may be saying that reachability of the containers. Lot of things are not possible right now with the Docker containers. So you need some other tool which can handle all these things, and that is why there is a new tool come into market, or not a new tool now. There are multiple tools which are available in the market, and they are called as a container orchestration tools. Container orchestration tool. So which are they? So some of them are, one of them is a Docker Swarm, and another one is a beautiful thing has happened in the IT era, that is called as a Kubernetes. So these are the two tools which I am aware about, guys. Where my file has gone. Yeah, so these are the tools which has I have worked on. Yeah, now somebody says that OpenShift, right? Abhiram is saying OpenShift, but I'll tell you, OpenShift use the Kubernetes as the backbone. Has the platform that is called as a Kubernetes, and on the top of that, OpenShift resides. Without Kubernetes, OpenShift can't do anything. They're trying to develop something, but it is not. Okay, guys. So you might be using a Docker SOM in your organization, but Docker SOM is something called as there are certain limitations of the Docker SOM, like integration with the different third-party tools, such as that if you want to bring the AWS EBS storage into Docker SOM, or if you want to bring something called as some storage or some networking parameters or database from the clouds, then what happens? The Docker Swarm doesn't support that much. So integration of the various entities, okay, they are available in the Kubernetes than the Docker Swarm, guys. So, but Docker Swarm can be used if you have the let's say small level of the application, guys, enterprise level application. Not if it is not enterprise level application, but there are some few containers are there and whose dependency is not there outside the third-party integration. That time you can use Docker Swarm also. But slowly, Docker Swarm is not being used by the enterprises. That is what I have seen. I'm observing the trend in the market, and you'll see that everybody is going towards the Kubernetes. Kubernetes has a powerful stuff, guys, right? And we are going to discuss one by one with them. So what is there in the Docker Swarm? Docker Swarm has couple of nodes. So one of them is, well, you can say that in the Docker Swarm you have one as a master node, and there are multiple worker nodes like this one. This can be your master, this can be your worker one, this can be your worker two, like that one. So this is called as a leader, and this is called as slave, you can say that, or worker nodes. Okay. This is the way the Docker Swarm structure is there. I have one PPT, guys. I would like to show you this PPT as well, along with for the Docker Swarm. Another important thing is that in the Docker Swarm, what you can do, you can promote any worker node at any point of time as a master node. Okay, you can promote it, you can demote it also. Let's say now this master node, you don't want to keep this as a master node, you can demote that, and you can make this worker node as a master node. That is also available, guys, in the Docker Swarm. So let me try to see if I have a PPT to show you about the Kubernetes architecture. Just give me 1 minute, guys. And then
Ramesh, this particular Docker Swarm, okay, I mean, apart from high availability and load balancing, I think we can leverage this concept, okay, to, let's say, you have created a master node, and in that you can maximum spin off up to 250 pods, right? So now the thing is that initially when you have spinned up 250 nodes, okay, you never expected that for few of the containers will consume more resources, okay, and your host machine is not capable enough to accommodate that load. Okay, and now if you have multiple worker loads, then you can deviate the load, okay, and that will compensate the resources which were supposed to be, consumed by the pods in the master, right?
Right. So I'm just discussing about the Docker Swarm right now, guys. I have not started discussing about the Kubernetes, right? So Kubernetes we are going to start in my while, but I just want to show PPT. I just forgot to open that one. Just give me, guys, 1 minute. I will just immediately open that. Let me see where I have kept it. Just give me 30 seconds time. Mm. Okay, guys, I got it. I will just show it to you. Okay, can you see this now? Let me just present the screen. Oh, can I? Yes, I can share the screen now. All right, guys, look at this. So this is something called as a Docker cluster. Okay, so Docker cluster is nothing but it is also called as a Swarm cluster. So let's see what it contains. So it is called as a Swarm node, and it acts as, yeah, right. So master node is called as a managers here, and worker nodes are called as a workers in this one. So what the diagram I was trying to show you, it has this diagram which I was trying to show you. It is called as, this is called as the what is that, managers, and this is called as a managers, guys, in the Docker Swarm, and this is called as the workers. So you can have multiple workers also, not two, you can have multiple workers also as well, right? And now, so Docker host can be manager, a worker, or perform both roles. So this is something which is interesting here in the Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm can host the workload, payload. You can say that it can host the containers applications on the top of the manager as well. And key advantage of Swarm services are or standalone containers that we modify the configuration, right? So that is important thing, that so whenever you want to modify the contents of the container or contents of the image, and if you want to reuse it again and again, you can use this cluster. So Swarm nodes, there are types of the Docker nodes, actually manager node and worker node. This is what I was trying to tell you. So what is a manager node? Must receive a service definition in order to deploy an application to a Swarm, meaning whenever developer writes any code, that code is given to the manager node, right, to deploy an application in the Docker Swarm. That is, Swarm is the name. It is the name of the cluster. You can say that, guys. Docker Swarm. Task dispatched from the manager nodes and received and executed on the worker nodes. Okay, so I think this is what these are the couple of slides which has given for the Swarm nodes. But what I want to do, guys, I would like to discuss much about the now Kubernetes. Okay, so once you come back, guys, we are going to discuss about the Kubernetes, introduction to Kubernetes. So what is there in the Kubernetes and everything we'll be discussing about one by one. Right, guys? So I think we'll take a little bit break 5 minutes before starting the Kubernetes. Is that okay, guys? So we can come back in 10 to 15 minutes and we'll start the main topic of the Kubernetes. We'll discuss
Ramesh,
about.
we didn't see anything about Docker Swarm. Sorry.
We have just now.
Because I don't know if you have there is some question in the chat and I don't know if we don't have a lot of container to manage. I think we can do it with Docker Swarm without going with Kubernetes. But I think if you stop like this in Docker Swarm, I can't do anything with Docker Swarm in my side.
Docker Swarm actually is it is also powerful. I have used that one, and it works really fantastically, guys. But what we want to do, we want to focus more. See, unless and until you don't install the Docker Swarm and work on that one, that feel will not come, right? So just wanted to brief about the Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm is nothing but it is a cluster which is used to manage the containers, and it is used in the small enterprises because there are limitations of the third-party integration. That is the only thing that I have said about it. But we would like to focus more and more about the Kubernetes. That's why we are just taking out this Docker Swarm, not in the detail. I hope that you people agrees on that.
Okay, if people agree with that, it's okay. But okay, let's go to Kubernetes, and perhaps if we have time later, we can
Yes. I can show
manage
you.
Docker Swarm, install Docker Swarm, say how to activate Docker Swarm locally. This is okay, but I'm not here to stop. Yeah, let's go with Kubernetes, and later we
Yeah.
talk
And
about.
definitely, in case if anybody is interested to know how to deploy the Docker Swarm, or if you want to learn it, guys, I have a documentation created for that. And I just I'll tell you one thing, that guys, if we just if we finish this in the time or before time, or let's say if requires 1 more hour, I'll spend on that one. If you are interested, guys, to learn how to deploy the Docker Swarm. But I will tell you one thing, just I will give the documentation, step by step documentation, how to deploy the Docker Swarm. You can deploy it in your environment, and if at all you need any help on that one, I am always open for that. Okay.
So Ramesh, you said, basically we are inclined more towards Kubernetes because of because Docker Swarm is having a limitation of integration with the third-party tools.
No,
That's
no.
the only.
Basically, what is happening now? This particular training program is defined as a CKA, right? Certified Kubernetes Administrator, and most of the questions, and but almost all the questions will be from the Kubernetes side, right? And perhaps most of the organizations are using the Kubernetes in their organizations. There are organizations who are using a Docker Swarm. I'm not saying they are not using, but that is the reason we want to more focus on the Kubernetes. But if you understand the Kubernetes Docker Swarm is something like, it is a cakewalk for you guys. You can easily understand that as well. It is not a
Okay.
big deal.
Now, my point is, if tomorrow we are going for an interview, okay, so in interview, okay, it's not necessarily that they will be using their Docker Swarm in their environment. Okay, they can, that they'll ask 10 questions, okay, but then there will be two things which will be implemented in their environment. So they can ask anything. So if they ask more about Docker Swarm, then that's the catch. Then you will be on the spot.
Okay. So give me some time, guys. I will see if I can create the one Docker. I will create the, and I will do one thing. I will create a steps. I have steps already. I will deploy that Docker Swarm on my Azure or AWS, this one. And once it is ready, then I will demonstrate that how to deploy the containers on that one. Is that okay now?
Ramesh, don't do it today. You can do it next session. We can go through Kubernetes. Take your time to prepare something for the next week, and we do it next week. If not, we will lose time sometimes to do
Right.
it.
Because if I start it right now, it will be wastage of time, right? So we don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Okay, I
maybe
will
at the
just.
end of the Kubernetes we can do it so that
Yes,
the
yes,
flow
yes,
doesn't break.
correct. Yeah, that sounds okay. I think we can do it after the Kubernetes actually, because this is, as Ramesh mentioned, this is according to the Kubernetes CKA certified course, and Docker is a prerequisite for the containers and Kubernetes. So that's why we cover Docker, and Docker Swarm is a different thing for the Kubernetes and this course. So I think that's why we cover Docker Swarm as a high level to show the glimpse of the Docker Swarm, all the things. But you can do all the things with the Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is widely used. That's why we more focused on Kubernetes rather than the Docker Swarm, I think. So we can go after the Kubernetes. Yes, after the Kubernetes, we can, I think, plan this as a bonus if. Yes.
Okay, guys, we can go Kubernetes, but this is a very high overview of Docker Swarm. Let's do it after Kubernetes. Sorry for that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Isham. You understand? No problem. I will definitely try something better for you guys. Don't worry about that. Okay, I will do it for you. Okay, guys. So let's take a break of the 10 minutes, 10 minutes is okay, guys, because we have a less time. Yeah, please start the counter now. Yeah. Recording as well.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, thank you. All right, friends. So what is a Kubernetes? So Kubernetes in one liner, if somebody asks you a question, what is Kubernetes? It is an open source tool developed by the Google. Now it is maintained by the CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it is basically a open source container orchestration system, right? What is the job of it? It automates application deployment, scaling, and management. And what is the meaning of that? I will discuss about that in detail now. So why to use Kubernetes? So as I discussed earlier, some time back when we were discussing about the Docker Swarm, so if you have a one single deployment, right, single container deployment, so it becomes a very difficult life, right? So if something goes wrong with that single container, then uh, it is very difficult to maintain the application uptime. So for that purpose, we need to have the multiple servers, multiple duplicate containers to be deployed for the same application on the different hosts. So how the inter-host communication will be maintained? So that inter-host communication is also, if you want to maintain, then you have to use a Kubernetes. If at all you want to scale up the application, you want 10 replicas of the one container, 100 replicas of the one container, then how you can do that? How if you want to bring down to the one or two replicas? So that is called as scaling up and scaling down of the application as per the requirement of the customers. It is not possible using the single container system, right? So that's why we have to use a Kubernetes orchestration tool. It is same thing can be done in the Docker Swarm as well. If because of some reason, if your container is dying, then Kubernetes has its self-healing function. Self-healing function is nothing but if the container is going down, it will automatically bring it up. How it is done, we are going to discuss. Of course, it has a logging and monitoring, better management, but better observability is also there, and better management through the modularity. So what is actually that? We'll discuss it. Okay. So now let me explain in detail about this particular concept, guys. So I'm just opening this one. Okay. So what is the building block of the Docker host? What was there? It was a container, right? So whatever we have seen right now is just container. So to form the container, we require an image, and you can create an image in the different way. That is what we have seen. But in Kubernetes, the first building block of the Kubernetes is there is something called as pod. It is a logical entity pod. Let's say this is your pod. Okay, so how this pod is created? So this pod word has some meaning, but some general meaning is there. So the basic building block of the Kubernetes is pod. So what is the pod? This is your logical definition. Let's say entity called as a pod. And inside that pod, what you can have? You can have multiple containers. So this is my pod. And pod can have containers inside it. This is my one container, or I can have another container also. I can have multiple containers in one pod. So this is my container one. This is my container two. So pod is a logical entity in the Kubernetes. It is a building block in the Kubernetes. The pod is a basic building block for creating your deployments and application. But what pod contains? Pod contains the containers, and what container contains? Container contains the images of your application. Right? And here important thing is that pod container doesn't get the IP address. The IP address is attached to the pod. So container 1 and container 2 doesn't have that. You can have multi containers inside one pod. So please, this is just I wanted to explain it. And this can be my web-based container. This can be my database container. That also it is possible. But mostly people don't keep this kind of containers into same pod. Some environmental containers can be created and can be kept inside the one pod like this one. Now, so whenever we are going to discuss about the Kubernetes architecture or its how the flow is happening, now I will not be using the word called as a container henceforth. We will be using the pod word. So this is a basic building block of the Kubernetes.
Ramesh, I have a
Pod.
question. So the pod is nothing but the host server or what?
No, no. Pod is not a host server. Okay, I will come to that one. It is just like a container. Okay, it is just like a container. It is a logical entity which can hold. It is a namespace which can hold. It is a space which can hold multiple containers. That is
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Now let's move ahead about the discussion about the how actually this works. So these pods are deployed in the Kubernetes cluster, right? It is called as a Kubernetes cluster, similar like your Docker Swarm cluster. You have a Kubernetes cluster here. So you can have multiple worker nodes, guys. This is my worker node 1, and this is my worker node 2. So I have these two worker nodes, guys. Okay. So where this pod gets deployed? This pod gets deployed on the worker nodes. Where is the space for, where is the place of this container or pod rather than the pod? It is here in the worker nodes. Here it will be placed. Now, if you are, this is my worker 1 and this is my worker 2. Okay, and there is my worker 2. I have not yet started the discussion about the master though. I will be discussing about it. Okay. Now, if I want to start the pod in the worker 2, or if I want to place the pod into the worker node, what is requirement? So pod contains a container. So how you will have a container created from the image? You need Docker engine, you need some container engine. So what this worker node contains, guys? Worker node also contains an important parameter called as Docker engine. So you can use any engine, right? You can use Docker engine or you can use another engines also which are available in the market, right? So I can deploy here Docker engine as well. So what is the job of the Docker engine? Just to create a container from the image and put it inside the pod. Now, apart from this, what else is required for this, right? So let's say that you have multiple containers in one host. So this is you can say a one host. Worker 1 is a one host. So I have multiple pods here, guys, like this. So who is the manager of these pods? There should be one manager who takes care of these pods. So the manager name of this pod is kubelet. Alright, guys, this is a kubelet which is present inside it. So it is the captain of the ship, right? If your worker node is the ship, then the captain of the ship is kubelet. And kubelet talks to these particular pods. It keeps the information about all the pods which are running inside their health, their IP addresses, how they are behaving right now, everything which is there inside the worker node that will be managed by individual kubelets here. Okay. Now, another important component which this particular worker nodes has is you need to assign the IP addresses and networking of the intercommunication pods. On this worker node, there are certain pods are there. How they will get IP address? How the IP address of this particular pod will be delivered? Okay, so for that purpose, there is one more entity which is present inside the worker node, and that is called as the kube proxy. The kube proxy is the one of the very important entity which helps the networking of the interpod communication. I'm not talking about the worker node to worker node. I'm just talking about the pods on the one worker node, how their networking will be established. So that networking, to manage that networking, we have kube proxy. Okay, so this is what there on the worker nodes. But later on, you can also put one more very important thing that is called as monitoring application. Who will monitor these containers? What is their CPU utilization? What is their RAM utilization and everything? So there is one more entity that can be installed along with the metric server that is called as C-Advisor. What that called as C-Advisor. So C-Advisor is also available on all worker nodes, right? And what is the job of the C-Advisor? To just track their logs, how they are behaving, what is their CPU utilization, what is their RAM utilization. All that minute level of the monitoring is done by the C-Advisor, and all the information about the pod or their health, CPU and RAM utilization information will be captured inside the C-Advisor. This is really useful at many places, guys. We are going to see that how this is useful when you want to scale up the application if your CPU and RAM utilization is going more than certain threshold value. So if you say that my application is now crossing CPU utilization of more than 70%, add one more pod, and one more pod. That is nothing but a horizontal pod at a scaler. So in that, during that period, the C-Advisor plays very important role. That is also true. But overall, if you want to find out what is my CPU utilization and RAM utilization of my pods, you need to have the C-Advisor placed in your worker node. But this gets enabled when you install the metric server. So I will discuss about that, guys, that role. So this is something which is, you see that your worker nodes looks like, right? But how these worker nodes talk to each other? If you have a application which is similar application running inside this web, this particular pod, and there is similar application running inside this one, how the communication between this worker node and another worker node has been maintained. So for that purpose, you need to deploy one more parameter on the, let's say from the master server, that is called as CNI. It is a container network interface, right? So CNI. You need to have a CNI. Okay, there are different CNIs are available that I will discuss about that CNI parameter during the installation of the Kubernetes, that I will discuss. So the CNIs is the additional network such as Flannel, Vue, Calico. These are the various networks which are available, right? And these networks are actually responsible for, this network element is responsible for the communication between the pods which are having on the different worker nodes. Okay, now this is something about the worker node I have told you guys, but there is one more important. Who will control these worker nodes? So to control the worker nodes, you have one more utility that is called as master node. Guys, you can have multiple worker nodes, right? You can have, I think I have heard that you can have 5,000 worker nodes also in one cluster of the Kubernetes, right? You can have multiple master nodes also, because if one master node is there and if something goes wrong with the master node, then there will be problem, right? So you can have multiple master node as well. So what are the parameters of the master nodes? Let's see that. So what is the job of the master node? It job of the master node is just to monitor this worker nodes properly. And another important thing is that, of course, very important job of is that if the developer wants to deploy some YAML file, so there is one YAML file, let's say developer would like to deploy, or deployment is there, or application is there. So we have a developer sitting at this side. Developer says that, look, master, I have something called as one definition of my application, which is written in very nice format of YAML. I'm giving it to you, right? So developer gives this information to the one of the very important component which resides in the master node. That component is called as Kube API server. You can say this is the brain of the Kubernetes actually. So Kube API server, or this particular component which is there in the master node, picks up the whatever the YAML file is given by the let's say that by the developer, okay, and it will be given to the API server. It is not coming, right? Color is not chosen. Okay, so developer gives this API, this particular YAML file or definition of the code to the Kube API server. And Kube's API server reads that information, right? And it says that, oh, you want to deploy application. Okay, no problem. So what it does, first of all, there is one important database is there here. So whatever the information it receives, it tries to inform to the database which is sitting inside the master node. And this is nothing but your etcd. It is your etcd database. What is etcd database, guys? It keeps the information of all the definitions which has been provided by the developer in the form of manifest, as well as it also keeps the information about all the components which are running on the worker 1 and worker 2, and as well as on the master node in the key value format. So etcd is a very important component. So if at all, guys, you need to take a backup of your cluster, you have to take a backup of the etcd database. Okay, so developer says that, look, I have a Kube API server says that, look, I have received one template or some manifest or some YAML file or some deployment configuration. Source code from the developer, please have the information, keep it the information along with you. Okay, now then Kube API server also calls one more important entity which is there in the master node, and that is called as scheduler. What is this? It is called as a kube scheduler. So what API server does, it says that kube scheduler, look, I have got the requirement from the developer saying that there is it has to deploy the application on the worker node. Tell me where to deploy it. So of course, kube scheduler will, of course, the information will be taken from the etcd, and kube scheduler will say that, okay, no problem. How many pods or how many what is the definition provided by the developer? It says that for one application they want to create a 4-pod. They want to create a replicas of one pod, 4 replicas of one pod. So kube scheduler says that, okay, no problem, but let me see that which worker node is now free, which is having a more resources. So kube scheduler has that information. It picks up that information and says that, okay, we can put one pod right now. There is only one, there is a vacancy for only one pod inside the worker 1. I can deploy one pod here. and there is a vacancy for 2 pods on the worker node 2. So the job of the scheduler is to determine which worker node is right now running as a healthy node and which worker node has a more resources. So it uses the 2 filtering mechanism. One mechanism is that finding out the healthy node, and second one, it finds out the who has more resources. When I say more resources, no doubt it is something like more CPU, more RAM, or maybe more disk IOPS, or maybe more. Yeah, these are the couple of components that you can say, right? So depending on Cube Scheduler identifies the who is having a better resources and who is healthy worker node. So once this information is given to the API server then gives this information to the the captain of the ship. And who is the captain of the ship? That is called as a kubelet. All right. So this information is passed to the kubelet, and then kubelet will do the job of the deployment, pod deployment with the help of the Docker engine and everything in the worker nodes. Okay, respective worker. Then kubeproxy will assign the IP address. Docker engine will read the image from the developer's manifest, which is given to the kubelet, and it will create the container out of it. And then it will put the container inside the pod, and the kubeproxy will give the IP address to it. Right? So API server says that, look, worker 1, you have to put only 1 deployment here, and it informs to the kubelet that, look, you have to put 2 pods on this particular worker node. So accordingly, it creates the number of pods here. So these are the 3 important components which are there in the master node. There are some more are there which I will be discussing, but these are the very important components which are available on the master node. These are the important components which are available on the worker node switch. Right? Now, there are certain controller managers are there. There are 2 types of the controller managers. One is the cloud controller manager, right? And there is another just a controller manager. Cloud controller. So what this cloud controller does, if your cluster is set up on the AWS, or if it's set up on some cloud service provider, right? So you need to talk to some of the components which are there on the which is being used by the this cluster. There are certain components of the AWS cloud infrastructure or Azure cloud infrastructure being used by this cluster. Then this cloud controller will come into picture, such as you want to use EBS. Okay, you might be using some other components from the cloud, so that will be maintained by this one. And another controller which is there, which is very important controller residing inside this kube master server, and what are the parameters of them? They are like this one. They are having replication controller. Okay, then it might be having something called as namespace controller. It might be having a deployment controller, and so many guys. There are a lot of controllers are available there that we will be discussing about it. So what is the job of the replication controller, or nowadays it is called as the replica sets? Its job is that whatever is developer defined, that how many replicas are required of the one pod, replication controller will say that, or that replica sets basically right now, it will say that, look, you need to, so that replica count will be maintained by the replica sets which are there in the replication controller or deployment controller. Basically, it is inside the controller manager, you can say. What is the job of the replica sets? Look, developer has said that it has to have three copies of the one pod, So out of that, one is running on the worker one, and another one is running on another two are running on the worker two. What is the job of the replica sets? To maintain that copies. Due to some reason, if the copy, this copy is getting, this pod is getting died now, if it is getting terminated, what this replica set or this replication, this controller will do, it will make sure that the another pod is started before it is terminated completely. If there is this pod is going down, replica sets or that controller manager will make sure that it will bring up the another pod before something is going down. And this mechanism is called as the auto healing or self healing. So what is the job of the this replica controllers? To check out how many replicas has been desired by the developer. It says 3, and make sure that you keep that 3 replicas set running continuously. If anything is going wrong, it is a job of that controller to start the another pod immediately before it gets terminated. That is the job of the controller. So I hope that, guys, I try to explain you some components of this Kubernetes. But very interesting thing is that one more thing I want to tell you guys. What are these kubelet? Or sorry, what is this controllers? What is this kube API server? What is this etcd? What is this kube proxy? What is this CNI? What is this C advisor? Are there some packages? Of course, they are the software packages, guys. But where are they running? They are running on the master node. Some of them are running on the worker node. But they are actually running inside the pod. And what the pod contains? Pod contains the container. So if you see, guys, Kubernetes cluster, okay, if you try to see, everything is almost in the pod. All the services which you would like to deploy, such as CNI, such as C advisor, such as if you want to deploy something called as API server, or if you want to deploy something called as replication controller or controllers, or maybe let's say that you want to deploy metric server to monitor it, all that are, or kube proxy, we say that all of them are just pods, right, guys? So this is what I try to explain you. Let me stop here for some time to take your questions. Let me know how much you have understood after this discussion, and then we'll go further ahead with the different discussion.
Ramesh, I have a question. This etcd database, okay, it can be any database, MySQL or whatever. Right?
Yes, you can have, but etcd itself is its own database format, right?
So
If
you
I'm
should
not
know how to, if you want to, if you want to manage that database, then you should know how to do that, and you should understand, right,
yes,
to manage
correct.
that database.
Yes, correct.
Okay. You said, everything, Cube API server, cloud controller, etcd, Cube scheduler, okay, everything is inside a pod, right? So inside a pod, what do we have?
kubectl and kubelet, these are the commands actually. They are not inside the pod, but the kube API server, it
Right.
comes, okay, that algorithm or that business logic which has been developed by the developer and called as a kube API server, it is running inside the pod, inside the container.
Right. But then I don't see Docker engine in the master node. So how a container
Yeah,
will end up?
yes, of course. You will require that one. You will require that here. Docker engine also.
Okay.
Docker engine
So,
is required. Yeah.
okay. So, will that have kube proxy as well?
Yes, of course it will have. The components
Okay,
which I have
okay.
defined here, they will be available. C advisor will be also available on this one, because there are some
Oh,
components which need to be managed, but these are the
manage.
significant components on the master server. That's why I have not added it. Of course, you will require
Oh,
Docker engine.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So basically, you can have multiple parts on the master, right?
if you want, but normally it is not. As per the standard Kubernetes cluster, the pods will get deployed on the worker pods will get deployed on the worker nodes. Pods will get deployed on the worker nodes.
Worker nodes. To offload the master, right? The actual work will be performed in the worker nodes, right?
Yes, right. Correct.
Okay.
So in the master, only one pod is there. Is that what you're telling, Ramesh? Because in worker, it will be multiple pod. Is that how I understand or no?
So master node contains all the system related pods of the cluster related pods, you can say. Okay, so such as kube proxy or kube API server or etcd or view network CNI pods or maybe metric server pods. They are available. That is called as a system related pods, which actually drives your cluster. So all the major components are there in the master. So they are also pod.
Okay.
And the pods which we are going to deploy, they will be the application level pods.
Oh, so worker will have system plus work, the application level, and the master will have only system level. Is that how I understand? Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So Ramesh, like earlier, like you have explained something on Docker Swarm, like where we can make a master as a worker. In this case, it's not possible, right?
No, not possible. That is not possible. This is basically more kind of enterprise level architecture. So let me see if you have some questions in the chat box, guys.
Can I ask a question too?
Yeah, please.
Yes, my question was about the pod. How does the pod created in the workers node? They are created based on the containers we have to create, or how are they managed? How many pod can a worker node has?
So basically, whatever the definition is defined by the developer, and developer says that look, start one pod. Okay, well, I need one pod which has one container, which has one image called as, let's say, Nginx, and it says that this pod should get replicated 4 times in the. It should have 4 replicas of that pod. That information need to be passed by the developer or administrator or whoever is the person who is sitting here. That need to be provided to the Kube API server. And then the Kube API server will, along with the Kube scheduler, will determine which worker node is free, and that information will be given to the kubelet, and then kubelet will drive the further creation of the pod with the help of the Docker engine. So Docker engine will pull the image from the Docker hub or whatever the registry you are specifying, and the kubelet will try to take that image and will create a container and put that container inside your pod. That is the way it goes.
But if it is not available any pods, okay, what happens if the developer mention like I want to create 10 pods? Okay, in the worker node and in the 1 and 2, it has only 8. Okay, what happens if deployment fail?
No, deployment will not fail. It will say that I don't have. I think your question is like this one. There is on worker 1 and worker 2, you are trying to deploy 10 pods, but you are able to manage only 8 pods. What will happen to the another 2 pods, and what will be the status of the application? That is what your question is, right?
Yes.
So the 2 pods which are not getting deployed on the worker node, they will be in the pending state. Okay, and after some time they will say that they don't have a proper resources and it will be down. So, but you say other 8 pods are doing the same job for you. That's why your application will not go down.
Okay.
So Ramesh, so at a high level, like, so developer, if he's giving the YAML and then Kube API server will read that and understand if it is some pod to be added, then that goes to a scheduler. Then scheduler talks to the kubectl for where it can accommodate, right? Whether 1 or 2, and then it will intimate to Docker engine for get that container and put it, or that is right way of understanding, correct?
Kube scheduler will always talk to the API server. Kube scheduler will not talk to the worker kubelet. API server will have a communication with the kubelet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will talk to Kube API. So Kube
API server is the main interface between worker 1 and kubelet of the all worker nodes. So scheduler will talk to the Kube API server. Kube API server will give the kubelet will give the information about the health and the pod resources information to the Kube API server. Kube API server will pass on that information to the etcd database to store that information. And whenever the new deployment request comes from the developer, then Kube API server will talk to the etcd as well as Kube scheduler to take a decision and give the information on give the decision on the based on the information that which worker node it should get deployed. So accordingly, Kube API server will inform to the worker 1 and worker 2 or some other worker nodes to deploy the pods.
So deploy the pod means that Docker engine will take care of deploying the pod?
Cumulative, all the components will take a, see, basically pod is nothing but a container, right? So unless and until container is not there, pod will not be created, right? So container creation is done. Job of the Docker engine is to create a container, and top of that, it is a logical layer, you can say, which will be encapsulated by using the kubelet and the kubelet environment, which is available on the worker nodes, and the pod will be created.
It's not Docker engine what it will do. Like, sorry, I mean, can you?
It is simple. Docker engine does the job of creating a container. It will pull the image from the Docker hub if it is not there locally, and it will create a container the way we have seen in the container Docker container experiments exercises.
Yeah, it's the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Ramesh, you had proxy, CNI, CAdvisor, they are all part of the pod
yes
structure. And we also spoke that in every worker node you can have multiple pods. So kubelet, can we treat kubelet as a worker host level component, while CNI, kubeproxy, CAdvisors, they are all common to every pod within the worker host? Is that the right way of looking at it?
Okay. So CNI or CAdvisor, these CAdvisor is the local to the worker node. It is a common for all pods.
Got it. Yeah.
CNI is actually cluster level component, which integrates all the master node worker nodes together for the better communication, networking communication. So
Okay.
CNI is another pod component which need to be installed once you form the cluster, Kubernetes cluster. So the integration will be happen. Otherwise, the worker node will not be able to talk to the Kubernetes master server if the CNI is not there.
Got it. And excuse me, how about kubeproxy?
Kubeproxy is a local. It is a local kind of step, you can say, kubeproxy.
Right.
You
So,
will,
so these are common. So these are common to all pods within the specific node.
yes.
These are all common components.
Yeah, correct.
And earlier, I know we had a lot of questions around, container in one subnet and another interacting with another container in another subnet. Would we be able to implement a CNI kind of a layer within the pod on one worker node to a pod in another worker node?
So basically, there is another concept called as a routing. Okay, so I have not discussed about that. So whenever you want to communicate, whenever you want to communicate with the pods which are inside these worker nodes, you need to expose this. You need to create one more networking layer that is called as a routing layer or service layer.
Which is part of the master configuration, or is it local to worker nodes?
It is across the cluster.
Got it. Okay.
Ramesh,
let me take the questions which has been written in the chat box, guys, if you don't mind. Please,
okay,
if you don't, because they have written with.
This routing service is located in where? Means, is there any specific location or?
No, it is a service. It is a logical service created across the cluster, and its data is maintained at the master level.
Okay.
So you can find out the service level information in the master.
Okay.
Yeah, take the questions from that chat box
Yes,
first.
please, guys. So Abhiram is asking,
That is
can you
better.
explain the respond of the Docker engineering part? I didn't understand the question, Abhiram. CNI equivalent to breach of container.
Yeah, I use updated me on the call.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so advisor already has that information, isn't it? Prabhajan, what is the information you want out of this? I didn't understand the question. Probably you might be thinking that C advisor has the information about all the resources health information like CPU and RAM information. Yes, of course, that it will have that information with the C advisor. Sainath, how does Kube Scheduler gather resources information of worker node? Does it talk to the C advisor? I hope that Sainath, that point has been covered, right, Sainath? How the information goes to the scheduler through the Cube API server. Always the Cube
Yes,
will give
it
the
is clear now. Yep. Thanks, Ramesh.
Yeah. Kavita says, so each worker node has one CNI. No, CNI is the common, right? It will create a pods of the CNI across the worker nodes. Okay, Kavita. So if you deploy the CNI called as a
So
view
each will
network,
have one. All these things, each one will be there in each worker node. That is
you
my
can
question.
minimum is one. You can if you want to create more, you can create more also. You can replicate that pod. It is basically pod.
Okay.
So Ramesh, CNI and routing service, there is a difference, or because both are cluster related, no, right? Or
CNI is the communication layer, networking layer, and on the top of that, you can create a service out of it, and that service use the different mechanism of the master, such as node port. So in the networking, I think I will be able to explain in detail. That is how the node port and load balancer and cluster IP is used. So that is additional layer of the Kubernetes, additional functionality of the Kubernetes, which creates the service. CNI is basically provide the network to the across this one across all the worker nodes and master nodes of the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So if you want to access it from the outside, you need to have the public IP address. You need to have the load balancer. So how to integrate that? We'll see that. CNI is, you can say it is cluster level. But when you are discussing about when you want to access the application from the outside, you need to add service layer. That service layer talks to the so external person will talk to the service layer, and service layer will talk to the internal CLI network. I hope that is clear now. Kavita, replica controller takes care of the only pods. Then what will control worker nodes? That is important. Worker node, if worker node goes down, then replica sets has only one job, that whatever the desired number of replicas are asked by the developer, if worker node goes down, it will start that many number of pods on the another worker node. Are you getting it, Kavita?
But that will be taken care by replica controller itself or something else?
Replica controller only.
Thank you.
but again, if the worker 2 does not have that capability of say that many worker node and worker 1 got down, then the
it will go into the pending state.
Oh, pending. Okay.
All right. But some pods will be there for that application, so your application will be running. Okay, even though let's say out of the 8 pods, if 4 pods are running and 4 pods are not in the pending state, your customer will maybe feeling that it is slow, but application will be running up and running.
So even though it is pending, it will take the transaction. Is it what you're telling?
No. It should be in the running.
Oh, it should be in running. Pending is also in running, but it's still able to take the transaction. Okay.
No, pending will not take the transaction. What I'm saying, when developer says that, developer says that my application should have 8 pods. So in initial condition, it has put the 4 pods on the worker 1 and four pods on the worker 2. But due to some reason, worker 1 goes down. It tries to move the pods on the worker 2. Okay, so how many pods will be there on the worker 2 now? 8 pods. But because of the space crunch, 4 pods are running, 4 pods are in pending state. So the traffic will be delivered by the running pods. So customer will feel that, oh, now it is running a little bit slow because it is not doing the load balancing because 4 pods are not working. Okay.
So this distribution has to be taken care by the developer?
No, distribution will be taken care by the this replica sets and Cube API server and scheduler. Okay. But developer will say that I just want 8 copies of the pod. That's it.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of hits coming on my application.
Oh, okay.
Ramesh, the pod can deploy multiple applications in one? The same pod?
Yeah, that is possible. That is possible. That is possible. That is the concept of the monolithic and microservices. If you want to make it monolithic application, that can be possible, but your pod will become a bulky. So all eggs are in one basket kind of stuff. But you can do.
Ramesh, 2 questions. Can I ask now or?
Just give me 2 minutes if you don't mind.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So Anirban is asking, can you please explain the deployment controller and namespaces? Deployment controller will discuss in detail about when we'll see the deployments. Namespace is nothing that it is a logical space gets created inside the cluster for your projects. So let's say that Anirban is working on the 5 projects. So he can create the namespace called as project 1, project 2, project 3, and project 4. And all resources respect to that namespaces or respective to that project will be created inside that namespace. So you are creating a logical isolation. So pods from one namespace will not talk to the pod from the another namespace. So that is a isolation will be created. So that is a namespace. So we will be using this namespace frequently when we start working on the pods, guys. When we actually start practicals. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Namespace is per pod, Ramesh, or how? Namespace is per pod, or so 10 pod, 10 namespace. Is it how it is, or?
No. It is a one log. It is a grouping of the resources. It's nothing but a namespace. So I'm defining my group called as, let's say, project 1, and inside that I may have the, let's say, 4 physical volumes or 4 physical volume claims. I may have 8 pods inside running that. I may have multiple components inside. Service accounts will be there. Some services will be there. So combined, whatever the resources has been consumed by that project, I'm grouping them together and keeping in one logical namespace, logical group name that is called as a namespace. So if I want to work, I will have to work in that namespace. Otherwise, how you will segregate the applications? Hundreds and thousands of applications are deployed in the cluster. How you are going to segregate that? So namespace will segregate that project, guys. Namespace will segregate the resources.
Okay, that means the resources might be in worker or might be in master. I can segregate everything. Means accumulately.
This workload that is called as a payload. You say that workload. Your pods can be everywhere. Okay, but you will be controlling that pod from the one namespace. Okay. Right, and if they are in the one namespace pod cannot talk to the another namespace pod. Okay.
Ramesh, I have a question. Who will create these parts? Like administrator or the developers, or how they decide like how many parts they want? Okay, can we increment in between? Like suppose I created 5 parts in worker 1 and 5 parts in worker 2. In future, I want to go for 10. Like
yes, you can do that. You can do that.
But this is created by administrator, right? These things, or who will?
You have to define that in the YAML file which you are defining, okay, for your project. So in that you have to define that how many replicas you want. You can scale up also, you can scale down also. We have a very good exercise on that one, guys. Don't worry about it. But it is possible. That is what I'm saying. So how to do that? We'll see it.
Ramesh, within
Ramesh, can you complete the chat?
Please let me complete the chat, guys. Yeah. Pujita is asking, okay, kubelet will take care of any failures in worker node. If any components is failed, then the health of that component will be informed by the kubelet to the API server. Okay, Preeti says that pod collection of containers. Yes, it is a collection of containers. Are all the app related to containers grouped into one pod? You can do that way. Okay, but it is not required. You can one application can have hundreds of models, and you can put one model into one container also, one pod also. Okay, is that clear, Preeti? If I have answered your question, that's fine. But if you still that feel, I have not answered properly, you can ask me. Saladin Sultan is saying, can the containers in different pods talk to each other? Yes, they can talk to each pods can talk to each other. If the pods can talk to each other, definitely container can talk to each other as well if they are in the same network. Of course, they will be able to, in the same namespace if they are. If pod in one worker fails, can we create a pods in other worker? I think that is, I have answered that. Replica set will take care of it, Pujita. If something goes wrong with the one pod, replica set will create the pod, and along with the kube scheduler, it will be decided on which worker node has to be deployed. Okay, so that is automated process.
Okay, Ramesh, thank you.
Okay, but if you want to deploy that on the certain pods, a certain worker node, that is also possible. That is called as advanced scheduling. We have one topic called as advanced scheduling. In that one, I will take care of that. We will be discussing about it. Okay, so okay, as per my understanding, Kube API server is a brain of master and kubectl is a brain of worker nodes. Is the communication between master and worker node happens through the Kube API server and kubectl? Yes, correct. You have understood correct. Yeah. So Prabhajan, yeah, thank you. Prabhanjan, sorry. Prabhanjan, what is the difference between C advisor and kube scheduler? Kube scheduler and C advisor take care of the monitoring the health of the pods, components inside the worker nodes, as well as the master node. And kube scheduler decides where to deploy the pods. So they are functionally completely different. Okay, Prabhanjan, I hope that is clear to you.
Ramesh, can you please repeat about the C advisor and kube scheduler?
No, see, basically, C advisor is used to monitor the health of the pods, CPU utilization, RAM utilization, and like that one. It will keep the track of that. It will keep that information.
But the C advisor doesn't work at the pod level, right, Ramesh? It works at the node level, right?
C advisor is available in the worker in the nodes.
Yeah, correct. It's available in the worker node, but it doesn't operate at the pod level, right? It doesn't monitor the pod metrics, right?
It monitors it, Ranjit. It monitors it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope that is clear now. Kube scheduler is used to decide on which worker node pod should get deployed. Okay. So if any unhealthy worker node is there, it will not schedule the pod on that particular worker node. That is the job of the kube scheduler. Okay, I think Kalyan Sudhakar, is it clear now, all the components?
Yeah, can you please repeat the components and what we have discussed, etc, kube scheduler, all that one together in a short?
Yes, sure, I will do that one, not an issue. Let me take some couple of questions more. If the developer has mentioned only 4 ports, and if the load balancer determines that all 4 ports are heavily occupied, does API server increase the number of instances to make sure that Rishi, for that purpose, you need to define the autoscaler. Horizontal pod autoscaler need to be defined. If you do that one, then only it is possible. Otherwise, by default, API server will not increase the pods. Is that clear, Rishi? Yeah, okay. Okay, I think he is now clear with that concept. Amrik Singh is asking, if you want 8 replicas of a container, can we choose the option to set up 4 on worker 1 node and 4 on worker 2? No, that is not possible at the kube scheduler level. Okay, but the number of pods, the definition of number of pods, that how many pods you want to put it on the specific node, that can't be determined. That is not possible. Yes, Ambik Singh? You can say that my pod should run on this worker node, that worker node, that is possible. But the number of pod, that is not possible, because there are a couple of things happens called as a filtering, depends on the scores and weight and filtering. So that we'll see in the advanced Kubernetes topic, but that is not possible. Is that okay, Amrik Singh? Okay, I think he's all right. Pod quota will control how many pods need to be created. No, that is not the called as a pod quota. That is called as the, if you are talking about the resource quota, I think, how many CPU and RAM will be given to the pods, that is called as the resource quota. But HPA, that is called as horizontal pod autoscaler, will take care of the how many pods need to be created depending on the load, CPU and RAM utilization. That we can discuss. Right, Kalyan Sudhakar and Rishi, is that point clear now? Okay, I don't know whether they are saying anything. Namespace is used to identify unique name of pod. No, not that way. Namespace is a logical grouping of the resources where we can keep all the resources together. Names can be different for the pods. It depends on what names you are giving to the application while creating the pod. You can define the in YAML file what name you want for the pod as well.
Ramesh, a doubt here. Namespace is just like a project name. What you want to create a project as a name. Is that clear? Like a cluster name or a JVM name. That is a namespace, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay.
How many containers pod can have? That limit, upper limit is not known, but we can have multiple, but that is not ideally used in the organization, Karthik. But we can have multiple pods. But it is not advised to have multiple containers in one pod, right? You can have only something like called as a sidecar containers. You can have environmental parameter, or if you want to create a containers called as a config containers where you want to keep the secrets. If you want to share that with the main container, then you can create a sidecar container, right? How many pods a worker node can have? That is, I think I answered that question. As per my understanding, till now 255 pods can be launched on one worker node.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I will just check my understanding again if this load has been increased or not. If the numbers has been increased in the recent versions, I'll check it. But earlier it was, in couple of months back, I had checked, it was 255.
So Ramesh, in this case, like we as administrator, we will be taking care only of the worker nodes, right? Not the master nodes, right?
No, as an administrator, you have to take care of everything. If master node goes down, then who will take care of it?
Okay.
But again, Ramesh, that depends on if you are using AWS or AKS, then the master will be them. But if you are using open source, both. That's the answer, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, most of the organizations are using EKS, right? So you don't deal with the master nodes nowadays. All right. Good. Okay, no problem. That is the right answer. Yeah. Okay, I think I have answered all the questions. Autoscaler will be useful if you want
Ramesh,
to
can
have
you
the
repeat the last line that the case one which you tell just now?
EKS is nothing but your elastic Kubernetes services, which are on the AWS. So if you are using the EKS service of the AWS, then they don't give you the control of master node. Okay, they will give just control of the worker nodes.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, they take care of everything inside out. Auto scaling, if master node fails, everything, all the high availability and everything is taken care by the uh, their infrastructure itself. You don't have to do anything. You have to just manage the workload.
Okay.
Yes, Pramod. Autoscaler will be useful in case your CPU and RAM utilization is going and your customer demands or demand is more. That time you can use autoscaler, HP autoscaler. You need to specify in some YAML file, otherwise it is not possible. Prabhanjan says that is yeah.
Ramesh, so the autoscaler just goes up to a level what we defined in the YAML. Is that what we are saying? Like, let us say I want to have 10 replicas, okay? Even though I have resources available and 10 replicas were working actively, and we see like sometimes at the month end per financial quarter end, we see unexpected load comes in, okay? So at that time, you are saying that like because we didn't define more than 10, even the load is on the peak, so it won't create additional pods.
Right, but
So
yeah, I got your question. So question is like this one. If I have defined 10 replicas in the my YAML file, but if load is more, so autoscaler HPA will automatically determines in and it will automatically increase the that many number of pods, right? But there you need to define in the in the HPA, that is horizontal pod autoscaler, what is your maximum limit? How many pods you can add?
okay.
You have
We
to
can
specify.
define both
Yes.
minimum and maximum, because like
Yes.
Oh, okay. In that case, it will work. Yeah.
Otherwise, it will consume everything of yours. There won't be any limit for that. The billing will go like anything.
Yeah. It is like any other web containers where we define either thread pool or DB connection pool. It's like a minimum and maximum or heap size. So it looks like it goes with the same concept, but different. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. All right.
Hey, Ramesh, I have a question. So let's say, because you said pod is nothing but a logical group of containers. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So we use it to create containers, right? But then so far we have observed how you can create containers by, I mean, whatever you have shown us, but then how to create a pod?
Yeah, that is what now our exercise will be there. We will be using a kubectl command.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Kubectl, you will be using a YAML files to create the pods.
Ramesh, I have a question, but I am not sure whether this is the right question or not. Why can't we directly have containers inside the work node? Why are we creating pods and inside the pods we're having the containers?
Okay. So that is the architecture. We have to discuss on the architecture layer of the why the person has given the name called as a pod, why he has not given something else. Right.
Okay.
Basically, that is completely the person who has developed this Kubernetes concept. He has used that pod concept. Maybe something more than you are using this any container, right? Any container engine. So when you are bringing the container, you need to define something in some different format.
Okay.
Right? And in container you cannot have multiple containers, right? So that might be in one pod you can have multiple containers. So I think there is a general meaning for the pod, which is nothing but something called as a grouping of the some parameters. So that has come. So nothing else.
Okay.
Ramesh, one question. Within a pod, if any unhealthy container instance is available, so will it be removed after certain period of time if it is not responding?
So the pod will go, if the container is unhealthy, the pod is unhealthy.
No, but
right?
we have multiple container instances within the pod, right? Like if it is only one container instance, whatever you said is right. If there are multiple container instances and if one container instance is unhealthy, and the other container instances are working normally. So, but in order to have the high availability, so we have set a target of like, say, for example, 10 container instances within the pod. So 9 are working normally and 1 got failed. So we need to add a new container instance to maintain the count of 10. So will the old container instance which is not running will be removed from the pod in that case?
Let me explain you the concept. I think something is missing in this concept. This is your pod. You can have multiple containers inside this one, but they are different containers. They are not the same containers.
Okay.
So when we have multiple containers inside the pod, they are not for the high availability. Because even if you have 10 containers, only one IP address will be assigned to the pod. We create, let's say there, okay guys, sorry. If you have 10 containers inside a pod, okay, no problem. So if you want to maintain a high availability, you have to create one more pod with 10 containers.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, got it. So if something goes wrong with the one container, your entire pod will be unhealthy. Then replica set will come into picture that why this is unhealthy. Let me produce new more pod. So if any other pod is healthy pod, it will use the image which YAML file which has been defined by the developer, and it will start creating the new pod.
Okay, so it is per pod. Okay.
It is per pod. It is not container wise. No.
Yeah, got you. Thanks.
Ramesh,
Yeah,
just
Ramesh.
yeah, I've been waiting.
Okay, go ahead.
So just related to this question only. So is it we can say that pods will have a single container?
You can have multiple containers in the pod.
Okay. And the second question is like regarding the HCD. So like as an architecture, like if you are asked to design a master node, so if I've given a choice, so how I need to make a decision on the database, like I want to go for MySQL, MariaDB and all. So is it like we can get a privilege of deciding that? If yes, then how?
So in the EKS and other environment, they have their own setup. I think they are not allowing us to choose it.
Yeah. From cloud perspective, yes, I can understand. But like as a normal thing, like if you don't want to go for a cloud, so how we can design it?
So we have to modify into the etcd YAML file. The etcd configuration YAML file is also there, right? Database is created from the etcd YAML file, and inside there the database definition is mentioned. So that there you can change it. So all the pods which you see here now, like etcd, kube scheduler, they are the pod. They have their own YAML files. That is, manifest files are there. If at all you want to modify, you can modify that as well.
So in that case, then we have to work as a architect, means at a framework level, right? Because there will be modifying the API server, because API server will internally call to the HCD.
Right. There will be a lot of changes.
Okay. And second thing is like in case if the master node is down, then what to do? Do you have a cluster master?
You have to create a multiple master nodes as a high availability.
Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So thing which you asked is that creating your custom resources, your own resources, right? So that is possible, but let's understand first of all the fundamentals, how to write small YAML files. And once you are comfortable with that one, once you feel that you are now comfortable with the 6 months of time in the Kubernetes cluster, and once you have understanding of all the components, guys, then you can start working on it.
So in live, like in production level, like you have not seen anything like designing a HCD.
No, it can be. It is possible. Why not? You can design that when it's etcd.
Okay. No, because like what I feel is like this is all taken care in the framework level, like and working again with the framework level of Kubernetes, you need to have a strong knowledge of that.
Yes,
so like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said.
Yeah, sorry. So
no, that's
like
what I said. Go ahead. Yeah.
So like people like us, like after doing this course, if somebody asks us to design it, like how comfortable we will be, I don't know.
No, you will be comfortable with writing your YAML files for the deployment of your application for sure. You will be comfortable with the networking part of it. You will be comfortable to attach the storage to it. You will be definitely doing the auto scaling and everything. When you are discussing about the layer 2, layer 3 or level 3 or layer 4 SME kind of role, where you are thinking about writing your custom resources, it needs some time. We have just started learning it, right guys? And once you understand each and every aspect of it, then you can easily write that custom resources also. It is not that much difficult which you feel, but over the period of time it will come.
Okay.
Right?
No, means
Yeah.
I get it, but like people like who have having experience of 15 years, they will be going for the role of architect, and like they might be
No,
given a task to
but
design like this.
for them Kubernetes is just a first standard role. You might be having a 15 years of role, but you might be having in the managed services or maybe in colo services or maybe in the application architecture level, right? But when you are thinking about the Kubernetes and the Kubernetes just, it is just, I think people have started working from the 2013 onwards, right, on these particular components. It is difficult to get the people of that kind of experience in the market, right? So if you are starting newly with the Kubernetes, you are a fresher in the Kubernetes. You are not the solution architect for that role. But of course, company will demand from you to have
Yeah,
that kind of.
that's
But
okay, Ramesh. So maybe like I think we might be diverting from a topic, but yes, just one request, like if you find any document like for the question which I've asked, like in case if you want to design a HCD using our, yeah, so that will be grateful for me. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you for asking this question. But actually, this is really a nice question he asked. Can we define the custom resources? And Prajapati, right? I will definitely will try to get some
Yeah,
document.
yeah, because
But
like what I feel is like because the role which I am looking, they won't take me as a developer because not a developer means even for S3 or S2 support, I may not be going for that since the type of experience which I have. So I'm certainly looking for the higher role.
yes, Ramesh. And I
So I
think
think that will.
only one thing is that I'll just not only for you, I'm just suggesting everyone, including me, that we need to do lots and lots of hands-on on this one to get the expertise on this one. That is what I feel, guys. And once you get the basics clear, once you are thorough with this one, and definitely if something comes like this one, custom resource definition, then it will be very good. It will just like you say that like butter for you. It will be easily you can take that role, and that will not take much time also, right? If you continuously work for 6 months of time, I think you'll be there. Okay. You have, because you have other experience, so you don't have to worry about it. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah. Okay. So why it is not advisable to have multiple containers in a pod? So Pujita, it is simple logic that if you have multiple containers in the pod, you are moving towards the monolithic application. So that is risky little bit. Okay. Padmasri is Ramkumar. How is the resources such as CPU, NFS, etc. are shared between the pods in a worker? Okay, that we'll discuss about it in detail when we are going to do this, but we can do that. Anand is asking, is a pod unique to each application instance related to container, or pod can be heterogeneous? Heterogeneous meaning is nothing but you can run this pod on various host operating system. Yeah.
No, my question was, by nature, is a pod unique to a specific application environment, or can a pod have containers associated with an application one and containers associated with application two as well?
Yes, that is what you can have. That is what Pujita asked me question, right? I can have multiple containers in one pod, and I can start multiple application in different pods or containers inside one pod. I can have one a web application running on using HTTP in one container, and I can have Nginx running inside another container in same pod.
Correct, but the question is associated Nginx, DB, web for an application called X, and an Nginx, DB, and HTTPD for an application called Y. Can both those share the same pod?
Okay. So that is something you're asking about the statefulness. Yes, ideally it can be. We can have two containers running in one pod, and one container can be front end and another container can be back end. That is ideally possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ramesh, one question, like the C advisor will work on a pod level or container level or entire the worker node level?
See, C advisor is in the worker node and it monitors the pod health,
Okay,
CPU
so
and
it
RAM.
will monitor the unhealthy pods and unhealthy containers as well, and
So
it will load.
if your container, no, but basically C advisor will monitor the pod level, and if your container is unhealthy or if your container is using more CPU and RAM, it will get reflected in the pod description only. Then you don't have to go to the granular monitoring at the CPU level, at the container level.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kubernetes service which exists only on the worker node.
Is pod unique to each application instance? Yeah, Anand, I answered this, right? Okay. And Pramod was asking now with the latest version of the Kubernetes Docker engine is no longer supported, but is whatever the images we were using to create container in Docker will run with other yes, it can be correct, Pramod. Okay, what is your question, Prabhanjan? You missed my question earlier, but here is it again. Is Kubelet a service which exists only on the worker nodes and not on the master? Kubelet is actually, you can install, it is a service which we can install on the master node also. There is no problem. But since Kubelet just use the interaction with the pods, right? Worker nodes as well as the pods which are available. So you need a kubelet for that one to manage the pod. So on the master node also kubelet will be there. Okay. Anant is asking, can we get one example of unhealthy condition of pod in real world scenario? Image is faulty, image version is wrong, or if somebody has not started the processes inside the container, then your pod will become unhealthy. If you are trying to upgrade your images from one application, from one version of the application to another version, and there is some problem with the image, then pod will go into unhealthy state.
Ramesh, can you answer once again the Prabhanjan's question?
About the kubelet?
Yeah, yeah.
Kubelet is, his question is that, is the kubelet only available on the worker node and is it available on the master node or not? But my answer to that question is that there are certain pods on the master node also. To manage the pods, you need a kubelet. So
Okay,
it is
means
available on the master.
okay, means inside master there can be a kubelet.
Yes, there, it is required there.
Okay.
Okay, all right, guys. I think we have discussed much. I hope that you guys, you got the meaning of the meaning of what is the Kubernetes architecture looks like, or components of the Kubernetes cluster. And if
Ramesh, I have this one. It's like, do we have a slides on this? Because it's sometimes it's depending on everyone's background. It will be like it could be heavy lifting, or it could be not really digestible or digestible. So it's I don't know whether that's the right answer or not. Whether so if we have slides which we can see that what it does. I know we have talked about it multiple times, but I think there should be slides which talks about each and every component what it does, right? So that way it will be very clear on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I displayed this on the screen now. This is what because at the end of the discussion always I will run with the slides. It will help you to gather all the information, and I will keep this train, guys. Don't worry about it. I hope that now this is what the Kubernetes architecture. This is a master node. It has API server. That is
The demo mode.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is fine. Yeah.
It is available, right? And you can get this on the documentation in the PDF format as well. So this is a dev person talking to the API server, and then it will update the etcd Then it will go to the scheduler, and then API server will talk to the kubelet. Then it will deploy the pod. That way the communication happens. C advisor will talk to it will gather the information about all the pods, and it will be informed to the kubelet. Then kubelet will inform to the API server. If there is a metric server on the master server, it will fetch that, and you can give it to the log stashing application as well. So this is what the architecture, and to have the CNI interface. So CNI interface is nothing but a third party tool will be there, which will integrate all these master node and worker nodes.
Ramesh, I have a question. Is it possible to detach one pod from a worker node and then attach it in another one?
You can do that. You can. It is called as eviction of the pod from one worker node. You can do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So guys,
Ramesh, Ramesh is Lento. I have one question. It's a little bit out of the way. We have a concept called AMIs. So this Amazon Machine Image. If we create images to worker 1, worker 2, worker 3, all those nodes, instead of dealing with all this, pod is dying, replacing pods and all those, isn't it going to work as the same way?
Yes, we can do that. Autoscaler, we can apply that autoscaler. Yeah, it is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Very nice. Thank you very much for asking that question.
Can you just explain once again?
The question was that there is a concept called as the AMI, that is the Amazon Machine Image, right? What is that actually? So if you have a running copy of your any EC2 instance, you can take a backup of it, and you can create a snapshot and create an image out of it, and keep into your my images section. So anytime when you want to use that image, you can scale it, you can scale down by using the autoscaler inside the Amazon image, inside the AWS.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks.
Yeah, is the same concept you are trying to answer. Yeah, ask this question.
Ramesh,
Guys, now one thing is that, just to conclude it, I will run through the slides in the next session, guys, in case you want it, for 5 to 10 minutes to recap the session what we have discussed today, so that it will go into your everybody will digest it properly. Okay. Because now we have almost crossed the timing, but I am there available for a couple of minutes more, guys. You can ask the question in case you have any. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Can
The
you please
Kubernetes.
share the picture which you have drawn?
You want this picture?
No, yeah, this one. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
You want me to? Yeah, sure. I will definitely share, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ramesh, my question is somebody said that Kubernetes Docker engine is no longer supported, right? Is there any alternative, like what other engine, container engine?
There are a lot of container engines. Are the CRI-O is there? You have Rocket is there. You have Podman is there. You can use a lot of container engines, but it is not like that. Kubernetes and Docker will remove this one immediately. There will be something called as, they will be using the container engine runtime of the Docker engine also as a backbone of it.
Alternative.
Yeah, we have that. There are a lot of alternatives out there. Okay, guys, I hope that today we discussed something which is about the Docker Compose, and we have spent a lot of time on discussing about the Kubernetes architecture. Hope you got something out of this session. In the next session, we'll be installing the Kubernetes in the cluster, and we'll start working on it, guys. Thank you very much. All right, guys, take care and see you in the next